Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Burg. I'm the chief janitor here at the West End Club. And part of the purpose of the West End Club is to talk about the kind of nightlife and entertainment, musical forms that have passed through Sacramento over the years. And the focus is in this room is mostly on sort of the jazz age, the 19 teens through the 1950s, but of course it didn't end there. And in the 1980s, at least from my perspective, as kind of a nerdy teenager from Citrus Heights, says that the kind of the epitome of cool for what I saw from my end of town was places like Club Cantel and Cantel Productions and these amazing shows that I wasn't actually cool enough to attend, but just the flyers. And just seeing things on the outside and kind of wandering around places like Java Cities and seeing these amazing creatures in pointy boots and leopard-skinned coats and just saying, when I grow up, I want to be that weird. And I wanted to just express my thanks to both of you for being here. And this is Carol Gale and Bo Richards, and the Club Cantel and Cantel Productions was their brainchild, and they brought a lot of bands to Sacramento and a lot of music. And I asked them here today to share some of their recollections, to share some of their stories, and possibly to offer some advice for aspiring promoters and aspiring musicians in Sacramento on where to move forward from here. So I'd just like to start by asking you to just give a hand to Carol and Bo. And maybe we'll just start with just having you introduce yourselves and just let us know how you came to Sacramento and what was your introduction to Sacramento's music?
Hi, I'm Carol Gale. And what do you want me to say, Lynn? Talk about...
How did you come to Sacramento?
Well, I actually am a third generation Sacramentan. My grandparents lived here, my parents lived here, and I lived here with my twin sister Mary, who's here also. And we grew up on 21st Street in the historic Briggs Mansion. And I think my first introduction to music was going to it was called the Negro Baptist Church. And the housekeeper used to take us on Sundays. And we were in our single digit years, probably 5 or 6 years old. But that is the first time I remember hearing music, and somehow I really connected with it and just started loving music. And the babysitters, they all loved music. And by the time I was 12 or 13, I was running around with bands and going to see live music. There was a lot of live music in Sacramento in those times. We didn't have to go to nightclubs. We went to dances. And I don't know if there's any alcohol there or not, but there was a lot of local bands. There was a very thriving music scene that I could remember even as a young teenager. So that was really my connection and my start with music, and really just formed my love of music. I can remember even being a kid and being in bed at night and having a transistor radio or a plug-in radio on the pillow, listening to it very quietly all night long. I never slept. I wanted to listen to Wolfman Jack and listen to the top 40 music. And I just think I always loved music. So that was my beginning.
That was very good, Carol. My name is Bo Richards, and I was born in Sacramento. I'm the son of the late great Ann Mennerbroker, and she, the poet, and she sang around the house a lot, and that was my first exposure to local music. Was my mom singing in the house constantly, which was really neat. My memory is telling me that I applied to be a waiter at the Great Northern Food and Beverage Company on Fulton Avenue, and I went in and I did some songs. I remember doing The Joker by Steve Miller and having the guitar behind my head like he did in concert, and doing a few other songs. And he said, okay, we're gonna hire you, you're gonna be a waiter, don't tell anybody you're not 21. And I met these great musicians in Sacramento who worked at the Great Northern Food and Beverage Company. There were waiters and wait people, and it was a family, and everybody had a nickname. It was just fabulous. And I met a group of guys there called Ozzy, and they had this band, and at one point they needed a manager, and they voted for me to be their manager. I lived with two of the members at one point. Another time, a place called Pigeon Manor on 21st Street. It was one of the old dorms, a kitty cat from the B, and that's where we practiced. And that's where we, there was a band across the street, I can't remember their name. We'd go to Campus Pizza and hear, I think the first band I saw at Campus Pizza was the incredible Half Man Band. Campus Pizza over there, Sac State. Anyway, that is my answer at this point.
All right, so we heard a little about your introduction to music. Next question is the two-parter. Number one, how did you meet? And number two, what got you into promoting music?
Well, I checked in with Bo, and it turns out we have the same story. So we met at a Crocker Museum wine festival, and they had hired me to take photos of what was going on there and document the day. And I saw Bo, who had really long blonde hair, and you had toilet paper around your neck. So we just started talking, and kind of coincidentally, Mary and I had gone out to Spanky's, I think, because we heard about this band called Ozzy, and it was described as cartoon rock. So we thought, well, we have to go and see that. So we went, but we got there so late they were done. So we never did see them. So anyway, that was it. We met, as far as I can recall, at the wine festival, and then I think we just started crossing paths. That's what I can remember.
Yes, it was at the Crocker, and I saw people that, I'm being told that is too loud, that I should hold the microphone here. Is that correct? It's right here? Is this good right here? Okay, good. And I forgot my scarf, and the toilet paper was a replacement for the scarf that I left behind, because after all, it was an art event. And I saw Carol and Mary. They were quite striking, and was drawn to them, and we started talking. Then there was this wild party with members of K-Zap at 315 22nd Street. Happy Jack, the bass player of Ozzy, and I lived there. It was also the practice house, and there was a big party there, and there was a DJ who got ill, and being the nice guy that I am, I allowed her to lay down on my bed so she could feel better. And the next thing I know, Carol was banging on the door going, you better get her out of there, or you're going to pay. And don't you remember that?
Yeah, but that was quite a bit later, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. We only have an hour here. But that's all I got.
But I guess the other part was, so what led you to, from managing Ozzy, and I know you're involved with helping them release records, but about promoting bands beyond that and wanting to run a venue. What got you into that end of the business?
Well, as it turned out, we were managing bands and booking bands in clubs in San Francisco and Sacramento and around, and there weren't a lot of places for bands to play. And we were going to San Francisco and seeing bands a lot, and they wanted to come here. They wanted to get on the circuit. So I don't know if we were like Andy Rooney and Judy Garland, let's put on a show. But we thought we knew enough and had experience enough. I think this is why. We could just do this ourselves and bring these bands to Sacramento so that there would be a place for them to go on to their next place, we were conveniently located. And then also, we wanted a place for our bands to play. I mean, I think that was the motivation, that we just thought we could do it as well as anybody else was doing it, and maybe even do it better, because we weren't just outside interested parties. We were involved with what was going on. You know, it was a really exciting time. And I think the other thing that I was so committed to, so this is like late 70s or so, disco is everywhere. And you know, the clubs don't really want bands, or they want cover bands. And you know, we were individually and together involved in a lot of original music. And you know, I personally did not want disco music to be ruling my world. So I think it was also kind of just a matter of seizing control and finding some place where we could do that. And I think we were fortunate. We were at the China Wagon, which is on Broadway. It's an Asian restaurant now, but at that time, Milton Chin had, he had music there, and there was a big fire pit in front, and you had to be kind of careful jumping around with the band and things, that you didn't fall into the fire. You know, it was kind of a dump. I mean, I remember one time I told him, I need a red light bulb. So he gives me a light bulb and some red nail polish and says, well, just paint the bulb red. So, you know, of course I didn't do that, but anyway, that's, you know, that's kind of the basic beginning story.
So we're going to rely on the memory again. We looked around town, and what Carol said is true. We were managing bands. There was Permanent Wave, there was Ozzy, a few others. And Rob Fauble was actually the first guy. He was booking shows over at Slick Willie's off Morse. I believe it was Morse. And he had like the Ramones play there, and Joan Jett, and he had some really good shows. And then, like Carol said, we can do this, you know. And then here was this establishment that served Asian cuisine, and you know, like they were doing it down in L.A. With Madame Wong's, and it just kind of fit the motif. And that's why we went in and approached Milton to see if we could start doing shows there. And we did, and it was great because we could bring all these bands in from San Francisco, and the calendar, there's one that pops up there, you can see that there are bands from San Francisco. We had a very, very rich scene, and I remember that. Okay, Carol, here, take over from here.
Basically, that's the beginning, and I think our other aim was that there were a lot of Sacramento bands that were inspired by what was going on, you know, in the new wave and punk scene and original music. I mean, we had, you know, I don't know, the Toiling Midgets. I mean, we gave people who wanted to play, because we had to do 3 bands a night. So there was a lot of opportunity for, you know, to have a headliner and then just give these other bands who were around who wanted to play. So that's really what we wanted to do. You know, we had kind of struggled to get places to play, and we thought, well, let's just give these other bands an opportunity too. And you know, there wasn't a lot of money, but they wanted to play. So that's about it.
What were some of the other places where you put on shows? You mentioned Lord Beaverbrooks. To tell us about doing shows there. You told me a story about it that maybe bears repeating, and some of the other places in town.
Well, Randy Paragary was very open to what we were doing, and, you know, and he had nice places. He had Paragary's Bar and Grill, no, Harry's Bar and Grill, and then he had the Lord Beaverbrooks, which really was a fern bar, a wine bar, and so we just started putting groups in there. I think, and you know, we did shows at the Crest and shows at there was a club on 15th Street called Galactica 2000. And you know, back in the early 80s, the year 2000 was futuristic. And then here we are with today. So, anyway, I can't remember who I told you the band was. Well, it was somebody wrote me a note, and it was a band, and he said he couldn't believe it that he pulled up, and there was all this glass and ferns everywhere, and people sitting around drinking wine, the fine dining establishment. He thought, this cannot be the place where we're supposed to play tonight. And then he looked across the parking lot, and X was also in the parking lot. No, that's another show. Anyway, so, these bands would come in, and they couldn't believe these places because they didn't really look like, punk rock clubs or the kind of nightclubs that they were playing in, because, we didn't really want to be having bands come into dives. And also, we just had to find places. So I think at one time, we were putting in shows simultaneously at 2 or 3 places all the time.
I do want to say that we had a lot of support from the local media, like the Aardvark, Suttertown News. I remember when we had the Dead Kennedys play the China Wagon with the headline "New Wave Baptism." It was just, the support was incredible, and they wrote these great stories about what was going on. I remember when, watching Richard Hell and the Voidoids play at Harry's Bar and Grill, a Fern Bar on 4th and L, was just an amazing experience. And the local clientele, before they thinned out, which happened quickly, watching their reaction was quite amusing. And then also at the Galactica 2000, the second Iggy Pop show, what happened there was a burglary was in progress, and they went through the attic to get to the room to crack the safe, and which they were successful. And then they came back up through the attic, and over the stage, one of the people fell through. And Iggy is like going, "What is going on here?" And there's a guy hanging from the stage, and they help him out. Like must be maintenance or something. Not really sure what happened, if they were ever apprehended or what, but that's a story.
The other thing that I realized thinking about all this was also as we were doing this and trying to get live music going in Sacramento, something happened, and it was called MTV. And at that time, what was it, about September or August 1988, they started playing videos. And so this, and people wanted to come and make people want to go out and see live music. And we had, some of those groups that they played, or artists that they played on MTV, we also had at our club. So I think it was just kind of a golden time, in terms of we had the local support, people were interested in what we were doing. You could go out and, these poster runs. We had some kind of arrangement with the print shop where they would print the things for us, and then we'd let them in. And then Bo and a bunch of people, the poster squad, they'd go out and completely paper the town, and even out in the north area and all over the place with posters, and put them on telephone poles. And we never got in trouble for it. I don't think anything ever happened. You weren't supposed to do it, but we did it. And today, I don't think you can do that. I think you'll get into a lot of trouble. But I just think the times are right, and the mix was right. Just there was a void, and I think we just stepped in to try and fill it.
Okay, well, before we move on to Club Can't Tell, are there other kind of stories of that time before you started Club Can't Tell that you'd want to talk about? Or there?
So, when you walk, from the audience perspective, when you walk into a club, you just think you're going to walk in and you're going to see a show, and you never know what's going on behind the scenes. And there was one time we did a show at the Crest, and it was REM. And everybody knows the Crest. It's a beautiful theater. So everybody comes in and they're sitting down. We had a bar that night too. We got a permit from the city to get a hard liquor license for one night. So everything was beautiful. So everything's going along pretty well, and everything. The show is on. REM is up there. Everybody's really enjoying the show, and the people, I don't think I should say their names, who were the proprietors at that time, Anyway, they came and got me. They said, well, there's a fire in the crest. So I go, well, I really don't want to shut down the show. I don't want to call the fire department. Do you have any fire extinguishers? So, the show is going on, and we're in the back with fire extinguishers back in the bowels of the crest, putting out this fire. So we got it all put out and everything, and we came back, and the show kept going on. Everything finished. Everybody's thrilled. They're leaving. We got to go settle up and all of that. And one of the things I was particularly excited about was not only did we have the door, we had the bar, and those people were drinking. So we were kind of excited that maybe we're going to make some money. So I go up to these people, who shall again remain unnamed, Livrette, Herb Livrette and his son. And he says, oh, well, something terrible just happened while we were all back there putting out the fire. Somebody stole the bar proceeds. Gosh, I wonder who that was. But anyway, we made out okay. We did just fine. But, that's one story. I have another one, too. Well, you tell one.
I don't think I have one.
That was a China way. Okay, so, Red Hot Chili Peppers used to come and play for us, and, it was always something with them. So, we're up in the office, and they're having their sound checks and things. They're supposed to go, and then one of them comes to me and says, Anthony, and he says, oh, we can't go on. And I said, well, why? What's going on? And he goes, well, Hillel is overdosed in the projection room, so we can't go on. And I said, well, you have to go on. He goes, no, we can't go on. I said, no, you have to go on. So they did go on. And I have a studded belt that he gave me after the show. I still have it today. And anyway, so they came out, they're only wearing one thing, socks, and not on their feet. Yeah. So I didn't know if they were paying me back. I didn't know if that's really the way they performed. I don't think I ever saw that before, but petrified that the police are going to walk in, because the whole place was just jammed, and there they are jumping up and down, wearing the socks. So there's another story.
All right. So it sounds like maybe, that experience at the Crest might have soured you on using other people's venues, which leads us to Club Cantel, which I know is a couple blocks down from the Crest, and I understand that you also got some city funding or some financial assistance from the city to put that on, and how did that come about?
Well, really, what we got from the city was that they were cooperative. I mean, we went into that club, and we had an idea about what we were going to do. I mean, there's an old movie theater with a floor that went like that. And so we were really naive. We thought, well, we could just go in there and, open up the place. But then we realized that no, how many chairs were in there? I don't know, a few hundred chairs. There's, between 300 and 400